Well, joining me now is Professor Kimberley Clausing, a non-resident senior fellow at the Peterson Institute for International Economics. Professor Clausing, thank you very much for joining me. From your point of view, has President Trump achieved his goals today?
I think it's very hard to say that he's achieved anything useful for the U.S. economy. In terms of his goals, they're a little hard to parse, but for one thing, he's raising a lot of revenue with tariffs, which you might think of as a good thing, but that's a big tax increase for U.S. consumers. It's clear that prices are rising due to these tariffs and that consumers and U.S. taxpayers are really going to be the ones bearing the burden of that tax. It's very unclear he's going to be improving the current account deficit. His tax and budget policies move in the other direction from that because the U.S. is borrowing more and more, and his emphasis on encouraging more foreign investment would also work against that goal. But what is clear is U.S. manufacturing jobs are getting hurt, which is unsurprising because the majority of U.S. imports are intermediate goods. So it actually makes things harder to produce in the United States when you're putting tariffs on all these imported intermediate goods. And you see this in the economic data with a slowdown in economic growth, as well as higher prices. So this is a classic supply shock. But what's unusual about this supply shock is it's really a self-induced economic harm.
You were talking there about the fact that he has raised revenues, but at the same time the global stock market has fallen and US futures are down too. This is far from plain sailing, isn't it? At what cost do you think this victory is coming?
I think the costs are really substantial here, and it's not just costs to U.S. taxpayers and U.S. businesses that are really suffering from supply chain disruption, retaliation, and uncertainty, but it's also costs to the system itself. We're undermining faith in the United States as a negotiating partner. If you look at some of the countries that have been targeted for these high tariffs, countries like Canada and Mexico and Korea, all three of those countries are countries where the United States has a free trade agreement. If we're not going to honor our agreements and we're still going to levy really high tariffs on such close partners and allies, it does make you wonder whether the United States can be trusted in any of these negotiations, which have a very transactional and, bargaining feel, but aren't ultimately doing anything other than reducing the gains from trade in both directions and destroying what would otherwise be a very beneficial relationship.
And of course this has dominated US foreign policy, hasn't it? Almost since the day he was inaugurated, we've been talking about these tariffs. Is this the new normal, do you think? Is this what we can expect going forward? What's next for him?
Yes, from the United States perspective, I think this is exactly going to be normal as long as Trump is president. I think for the rest of the world, the challenge will be to not embrace this as the new normal writ large, to sort of bracket dealing with the Trump administration and set that to the side and continue to pursue a rules-based, orderly trading system with the rest of the trading partners. So the rest of the world has a big advantage relative to the United States. We're engaged in a trade war with every country of the world simultaneously. The rest of the world still has each other, so they can work to expand trade in a rules-based fashion and sort of bracket this disruption from the United States off to the side. But I think it remains to be seen how well other countries will manage the situation.